I want to pivot to brighter news for the Patriots. Mike Reese wrote an article about how far away or not the Patriots are from winning. I want to read you some of these excerpts here. So basically, he spoke with 2 scouts in this article with ties to the AFC East about the Patriots and their offseason and Braves and all that. Listen to these quotes. Quote, "This is the best offseason they had in a while. I feel like they're the Bills' biggest threat." One scout said that. The other one said they basically drew a parallel to how Vrabel's teams were built in Tennessee to what the Patriots are doing now. Listen to this quote. "Look at the history of Vrabel's teams. They'll play hard and mirror his personality. It happened in Tennessee." So this, I guess these scouts are kind of saying, we know how it ended in Tennessee, but when they were humming, the Patriots could be Titans 2.0. Do you think that's fair?
Absolutely. Talent-wise, those Tennessee teams, they had some high-end talent. Obviously, Derrick Henry was there. Yeah. Taylor Lewan was a great left tackle for a long time. Jeffrey Simmons, some of the Kevin Byard, some great defensive players. But talent-wise, they were never in the conversation with the Chiefs and the Patriots of 2017 through 2020. Those really talented teams that were competing for Super Bowls. But Vrabel was able to get them there. And the culture that they had built in that system was able to, obviously, they kind of ended the Patriots dynasty. Tom Brady's last pass as a Patriot, picked off by Logan Ryan, who played for the Titans. Mike Vrabel knocked them off at Gillette Stadium. So if you can build that culture with the talent that they do have, I think this is a much more talented team than any of the ones he had in Tennessee on paper. You've got high first-round picks, Christian Gonzalez, Christian Barmore defensively, all the free agents they signed. Drake May, we think, is going to be a star. Better than any quarterback he ever had in Tennessee. Those guys stunk. So, talent-wise, and if he's able to establish the culture we think he is, absolutely, I think they can be a contender in the AFC East. It's not going to happen in year 1. It might not happen in year 2, but this is a 3-year rebuild. We've been talking about it for the past 2 years, 3-year rebuilds, but it restarts when you hire a new coach, and I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually went there with the timeline because I'm with you. This second scout, the quote I read where he's like, I think they're Buffalo's biggest threat. I'm not quite there yet. I think I'm more in line with the timeline you laid out. However, I actually think the AFC East as a whole is going to be better. The Bills are the Bills. They have Josh Allen. It does feel as though last season maybe was the one where this is your chance. Chiefs aren't right. Something's off there. Can you beat Lamar? You beat Lamar and the Ravens. Like, it felt like it was maybe their time, and they just didn't get it done. So, in a way, I don't know if regression is too strong of a word, but I just think their championship window is not as wide open as people think. With that being said, they're probably still the best in the division. I'll tell you a team I'm high on. I know I'm crazy. I like the Jets. And the reason why is in theory of why it should have worked with Aaron Rodgers. The roster has been set there for years. They have a great roster. They need competent quarterback play. They didn't get it from a Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers. I think Justin Fields, who I still, to this day, don't think should have been benched in Pittsburgh. I think Justin Fields will flourish there. We know the Dolphins are soft, but they're a regular season team. I think the Patriots are in the mix there with those, Dolphins and Jets. But I am not there, Keegan, in terms of them going over the Bills. Now, I will say this before we go to break. I think the Patriots' schedule is advantageous to maybe fighting for a wild card. Maybe they're in the wild card picture. I'm willing to go there. But in terms of winning the AFC East, I am not willing to go there yet, my friend. But we're just getting started on all the Patriots talk. You know how we do. We've talked about how we think this team could take on the image and likeness of Mike Vrabel moving forward, building that culture. We saw him upset at OTAs today, even though he handled it smooth with the Stephon Diggs situation. We know this team's going to be tougher, so we'll talk about that on the other side, about how some of these new players with the Patriots can help them get there and be in Vrabel's likeness, if you will, that toughness, that no-nonsense. Keagan Stiefel, Travis Thomas. We're just getting started on Foxborough Rush. Roll with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Foxborough Rush. Travis Thomas, Keagan Stiefel. All right, Steve, before we went to break, I laid out to you how this article by Mike Reese, he talked to a couple AFC East longtime scouts, Both of them are high on the Patriots. One of them even suggesting that they're going to push the Bills and usurp them and win the division. The biggest threat possibly to the Bills is what this scout said. I told you, I think the division as a whole is going to be better. I'm not willing to close the door on the Bills, although I do think that championship door is getting a little bit tighter. I love the Jets. I'm high on them this year, but in the end, the Jets are the Jets, okay? And then the Dolphins are softer than baby crap, so who even knows? But they're a regular season team. We know they're going to win in the regular season. And then you have the Patriots probably somewhere between Dolphins and Jets and maybe vying for a wild card. To that, you say what? And sort of how do you see the division playing out? Are you with the Patriots being the biggest threat to the Bills?
I would say they're the biggest threat. It doesn't mean they're going to threaten, if that makes sense. Like, comparatively speaking, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets, who is the biggest threat of those three teams? I think it's the Patriots, without a question. Miami, I've consistently been down on. Like you said, soft football team. I also think the high-end talent is no longer there. It's not what it was 2-3 years ago. So I don't see them as one that's going to come out of the gates and win 4 or 5 games to start the year and build up a little bit of a lead in the wild card race. The same with the Jets. Like you said, the Jets are the Jets. So from that standpoint, absolutely. I think the Patriots are number 2 in the division pretty clearly in my eyes. And you mentioned it before we went to break with their schedule and who they'll be playing. I love the AFC. I think the AFC is full of contenders. It's full of teams who could make the playoffs. You know, running through it, Baltimore and Cincinnati, and then you can include Pittsburgh, depending on what they do at quarterback, as playoff teams out of the North, right?
Yeah.
The South will have one. They'll have their division winner. And then the West, you know, Denver and Los Angeles, the Chargers, can compete with Kansas City for a wild card spot. You're looking at like 10 to 12 teams in the AFC who could conceivably make the playoffs this year. But they're all going to feast on each other while the Patriots have the easiest schedule in the NFL. So if you can take advantage of that, you can take advantage of a lot of splits in division. You know, one team maybe really beating down on some of the other middle-tier teams and pushing them down in the wild card race. I don't hate their chances of being that 7th wild card team, that 7 seed that sneaks in and gets a playoff game against, you know, Baltimore or Buffalo, whoever it might be behind Kansas City. So I like their chances this year in terms of being a watchable product, which is a difference from what we've seen in the last few years. That's the exciting part. Is they're going to be fun to watch this year.
I would agree with that. I would also probably, because I'm a hot take artist, as you know, my friend, you know, right now, the way, maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, but right now, the way the Red Sox are playing, you know, obviously we know the Bruins are trying to figure it out. The Celtics, at least next season, we know are going to be shaky at best. Right. I think the Patriots, bro, like they have a real shot around town to be the bee's knees. I just think like Drake May, Vrabel, they got everything working for them. They have some momentum here. If they can go out, as you say, and be a watchable product, that's a check. But if they can chase a wild card, if they can get in a playoff picture, you know, you just laid out the AFC in totality. Brother, I don't know if 9 wins gets it done. I mean, honestly, they could have a great season and win 9 games and miss the playoffs. That's possible. Kind of throwing back to the Matt Castle year, right, where I think they won 10 games or 11 games that year and missed.
Yeah,
so
10-6. Missed
was it 10-6? I knew it was something. I wasn't even here, and I remember that. So, look, man, like – you know, we could be looking at that where this team's good. They have a winning record. They're 9-8. We feel great about the future, but they miss out on the postseason. I could see that too. Either way, let's land the plane here. You and I both agree it will be a watchable product. You and I both agree. Temper expectations to a certain extent, but expectations are okay. Is that fair to say? Would you say I'll put a bow on this?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. It's fair to have an expectation for this football team. Yes. It was not fair a couple of years ago.